Buckle up. It's time for the Champions of Cinema podcast.
Welcome, sports fans, to the Ultimate Cinematic Arena. I'm your host, Joe Walker, and this is the Champions of Cinema podcast. Fellow producers James Marshall and I are diving deep into the heart-pounding world of sports films, the victories, the defeats, the unforgettable moments that make us cheer, cry, and believe in the power of the underdog. It's Season 3, Episode 10, and today we answer the final bell on the Rocky Cinematic Universe with our awards show celebrating the series. James.
Joe.
How are you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Yeah, bank holiday weekend. Kind of read some. We had a lot of football this weekend, of course. Got to see Caesars play Saturday. Nice day out in Coventry yesterday. So I took some time off. Had a chance to watch some things. And
nice. What have you been watching?
I've been watching. Well, this weekend I wanted to rewatch all of the Lord of the Rings extended versions. And
that's crazy.
And tell you what, that is peak fiction, I think, in my view. I don't think there's like fantasy kind of like book-based fiction version of storytelling that beats out Lord of the Rings that I've seen yet anyway.
Ooh, that's a good question.
When I'm at one point a parent, it's like the Lord of the Rings is the thing that I want to really like. I want my kids to watch because I feel like it's almost like giving them a good philosophy lesson on morals and just being like how to be a good person.
Yeah,
so it's
definitely a moral story.
Yes,
and it's a moral story that it's born out of. I think really it was born out of kind of like World War II, really.
Yeah,
and World War One. So very easy to define between good and evil. Very easy to define between. What the good is doing and what the bad is doing.
But lots of imperfect characters as well. Characters that have personal challenges and stuff. And there's good development across the board. So,
the inability to eat tomatoes, things like that. Which is...
I know exactly what you're talking about. What about you? What have you been watching?
I've been watching some different stuff. I tried to watch some different things over the last couple of weeks. I ripped through the Day of the Jackal, the new Eddie Redmayne series last week, and this morning actually I watched a movie. I watched Prisoners for the first time, the Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Where's my daughter? Where's my daughter? Yeah, nice.
Yeah, kind of great, but also kind of weird as well.
Very intense.
Very intense movie. So I enjoyed watching that. It was kind of different, and I started last night to watch the I think 2016 or 2017 movie The Programme, which was about Lance Armstrong and Ben Foster, which I think might be hanging around for us to watch at some point in the next few months, potentially as a Champions of Cinema movie.
All right.
But it's a great time for us to really come to the point of wrapping up the Rocky series, the Rocky Cinematic Universe, and there hasn't been 10 Rocky movies yet. So when you get to a 10th episode in a series, you sort of wonder, well, what do we do now? And I think this is the first time that we're going to do this. It might not be the last time we do it. We might do this through our series as we move forwards, which is quite fun. But we're going to spend our 10th episode going through the Rocky series and picking out some key award winners, a bit like the Oscars. And so this episode, we're going to try and dive into each element that you would usually expect from the Oscars. Those 8 elements that we're going to cover today are our protagonist pick, our antagonist pick, our coach pick, our director of the movie pick, our soundtrack of the Rocky series, our favourite script of the Rocky series, our favourite montage of the Rocky series, and the movie. The best movie of the 9 movie Rocky series. So I guess really without further ado, James, we're going to do this, and what we're going to do is we're both going to say who we think should be the winner of each award, and then we're going to either agree about it or we're going to disagree about it, and then we're going to have an argument that then decides which one is the winner.
Sounds good.
So I want you to start off by telling me who you think your protagonist is and from which movie in particular.
So really, when it comes to this first pick, it's either a choice between one of 6 different Rockies, Rocky Balboas, or the 3 Creeds. So
That's true, yeah.
So I think in my mind, like, okay, well, I think I have to pick a Rocky. So then I have a choice between one of 6. And then there's Rocky evolves throughout it. So I've just picked which is my favorite version of Rocky. And I think the one that was the most interesting to me, might be a rogue pick, Joe. But I've gone for Rocky from the film Rocky Balboa.
Okay. That's very interesting. So you're picking Rocky from Rocky Balboa, which is the 6th movie, the reboot movie from 2006.
Yep.
Whereas I'm going to pick Rocky Balboa from the very first movie, Rocky, from 1976.
Cool.
So 30 years apart.
Yeah.
And okay, talk to me about why you want Rocky Balboa from the movie Rocky Balboa 2006.
So one of my favorite themes across all sports films is often like the retired athlete. It's the athlete who's kind of lived his first death and of retirement and is now trying to come to terms with that post-career life. And I think there are some really like heartfelt moments, like when he sees at this point Adrian's no longer alive. He's going to the cemetery. He's kind of constantly revisiting in his mind his former life. And there's the clip of him in the freezer room with Paulie talking about how he's really struggling. And I feel like that hit me a lot in terms of like, wow, this is like really kind of vulnerable Rocky here. And I just thought it was the most, I think, it was also some of Stallone's better acting that we've seen from the Rocky films.
It's very, very good acting.
And I think it adds an element of complexity to Rocky's character, which I thought was just very compelling. So I think it was hard to kind of pinpoint like which Rocky was my favorite, because like I'm sure you'll go into detail at Rocky 1, but it's like, Rocky 3 is like successful Rocky 4 is like revenge Rocky 5 is like I'm retired but kind of not retired, like whatever, like I don't know what's going on, like kind of forced to retire, like so it was like in my heart I felt like the Rocky which I was most interested by, and therefore the protagonist I was most interested by, was from Rocky Balboa.
Okay, that's interesting. Now I think that you've got a very compelling argument there. However, I would say that as a sports movie, and we're a sports movie podcast, Rocky Balboa isn't a sports movie character from the Rocky Balboa movie.
Yeah.
He is a movie character who isn't really being a sportsman. He does some training. He has a fight, but I would say that he's a much more humanized version. You could have been watching some sort of Ken Loach movie about somebody who used to be an athlete, and it was just about how he's dealing with his life post being an athlete at that point. Yeah. But they just shoehorned in a fight at the end that kind of didn't really work either. We've already said that was a bit poor, that fight. My argument for Rocky Balboa in the original Rocky movie is that Rocky, we start out with him embodying the classic underdog, which makes him really relatable, really inspiring, and his self-doubt, which is very noticeable in the Rocky Balboa movie, is there already. He's already a fleshed out character. He's already got quite a lot of self-doubt. He's trying to be confident. He's trying to be interesting. He has loads of emotional depth. He's got vulnerability. He's charming, but he's also, quietly strong, and then, he has that real emotional realism that we want to see of a character throughout the movie. He's that wonderful symbol of perseverance because he represents the American dream. He works hard despite the odds. He has that self-doubt of whether or not he can even beat Creed. And he became a cultural symbol of resilience for generations and generations. Without that character, there isn't the first success movie of the first. So there isn't the success of the first movie. There isn't the launching of the franchise, and I don't think we get the overall Rocky that we need.
It's very good, Joe. I think you're right. It's like Rocky. There are no other other films if people don't fall in love with Rocky from Rocky 1, you know.
Agreed.
And it's not just the athlete side of it. There's also the romance side of it. There's
Mm-hmm.
we see his morals in terms of like how he's a collector, but he's not like a cold-hearted collector. Like, you know, he does, you know, he's still got a good heart. And I guess for me, it was like the thing that was always confusing in Rocky 1 is like he wants an opportunity, but he's also reluctant to take the opportunity. Like, remember, like he doesn't take the fight offer straight away when when he gets the offer from like Creed's team to like, hey, we can give you a contender shot. Like, this is like a golden ticket, and he's kind of reluctant to take it. I guess that was always kind of confusing for me, or at least now it's confusing. Maybe it's because it's been a while since we've watched the first Rocky film. But I think that you make the strongest point you made is the fact that he's not really an athlete in Rocky Balboa, and it's kind of like it's a very different kind of movie. That whereas in terms of like our classic sports protagonist, I think you're right. I think like when we think about, you know, the Rocky trope, right? The kind of analogy people use around sports. So like, oh, this is like a Rocky story. This is a kind of like a Rocky moment. It's about being the underdog, and that's obviously at its greatest strength. It's most poignant. That's it's the most obvious when he's the underdog in Rocky 1. So yeah, I think that's a good point. I think I was reluctant. I think what I've been trying to do is like I think we both know which are the strongest Rocky films based upon how we've ranked them and like what scores we've given them. Yeah. So in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to like just give every award to like the same film over and over again. So like, we're cool to kind of share the love with a couple of the films, but
that's okay. I think, but I like your argument. I do like the argument of Rocky Balboa, and here's the difference for me. I think Stallone was playing Rocky in Rocky 1, if we can call it Rocky 1. I think Stallone was being himself
in Rocky Balboa.
Yeah. And that really came through, that idea of loss, that idea of challenge, because he had been through a difficult time. By 2006, Stallone was in his wilderness when it came to acting. And I think you make a really nice point. But I'll happily accept that the best protagonist is Rocky from the original Rocky movie.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Sylvester Stallone on being the best protagonist from the Rocky series, and being our favourite Rocky. I think is the Rocky Balboa in the original Rocky. So you know what, you're Adrian, you did it. All right, there you go. Okay, let's move on to a much more difficult question. And that is our favourite antagonist. I'll start on this one. And I'll lay out that my favourite antagonist is Damien Anderson.
Yes! Great pick.
Do you agree?
I agree, Joe.
Oh, amazing.
I absolutely agree. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Okay. Talk to me about why you think Damien's a great choice.
I think because he has the most story to him. I think a lot of antagonists that we see are just sort of there as someone to Rocky to beat. You know, they may be, you know, okay, so it's like Drago, was just sort of a Russian face. It was just kind of represented like the Russian athlete and stuff. And Clubber Lang wasn't really fleshed out at all. We didn't really know much about Clubber besides the fact that he was an up and coming boxer. And I think Creed, Apollo Creed is probably like a good.
He could have been. He was the best option outside of.
He's probably our honorable mention, just because like he kind of he was so his presence, like his the way that part of it is Carl Weathers' nature and his personality is that when every scene he's in, he just dominates. But I feel like as an antagonist who's kind of vengeful, bitter, and also at the same time, though, you're kind of compelled and you feel sorry for this villain because of all the stuff that happened to him. It's just like, wow, this is a really well written villain.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And I think he just stands out.
yeah. For me, my notes are this. So there's the personal conflict element, that he's not just a physical threat, but he's an emotional one with a shared past with Adonis that complicates their rivalry. He is a sympathetic villain, which we all want in all of our movies. We want villains who we are just a step or so away from agreeing completely with what they want to do, and it puts us in conflict as the viewer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a raw energy to Jonathan Majors with that layered, intense performance that elevates the stakes of the movie, and ultimately, he's a mirror image of Adonis. He functions as a dark reflection of Creed, challenging his identity and growth throughout the movie.
Yep.
I love him. So, I mean, we won't labour this too much, but Jonathan Majors, and just well done for producing what we believe is the best antagonist in the Creed series so far. I hope, beyond hope, we get Creed 4. I hope beyond hope that we can start getting Damien Anderson in Creed 4 available to us as well. Right, let's move on to Coach, which is the award probably that I feel most close to in my old age, and the one that I really enjoy. James, who is your pick for Coach, and from which of the movies?
This was really hard because, so choices wise, we've kind of got Mickey from the first two films and a bit of 3. We've got Apollo Creed in the third film.
In the third film, yeah, great.
We've got Duke in 4.
In the 4.
We've got Rocky
in 5.
He doesn't really have so much of a... Who's in Rocky Balboa? He's kind of by himself, isn't he?
It's Duke. It's Duke again.
Duke again, yeah. And then we've got Rocky in Creed 1 and 2.
Yes. And then we've got Mini Duke.
Mini Duke
in Creed 3.
In Creed 3. So... So that actually, funny enough, my first answer was Mickey from Rocky 5.
Oh yes, okay, because you've got
because of the flashbacks.
The flashback.
I think
flashback scene.
That was perhaps the only moment in the Rocky films when a tear actually did come down my face, just because I was like, the stuff he says is so warm and loving in terms of like showing how much. How close he was to Rocky and how much he thought of Rocky. Yeah, and it's just like, God, why didn't we ever see any? We didn't really see a lot of this in the other Rocky films, you know.
No, I guess maybe, but maybe it's because it's a memory.
Yes.
Here's the argument. Maybe it's because it's a memory that Rocky is remembering, and you'll always remember the nicer things that I've said to you. You'll forget all the horrible things that I said to you.
I haven't forgotten them, Joe. They're suppressed deeply inside, and they're mentioned to my therapist on a regular basis. But actually, no. Just on the spot now, my answer is going to be Rocky from the first 2 Creed films, or specifically Creed 1, maybe.
Okay, Rocky from Creed 1.
Yeah,
interesting.
I think just based off of kind of like, because we've seen so much Rocky on air now, it's kind of like his way of coaching Creed is just sort of like an amalgamation of all his experiences, all the knowledge he's taken on from people like Apollo and people like Creed, that like he knows exactly how to get through to Creed, both from a personal level and kind of like this is kind of like him making up for the fact that it's kind of, he owes it almost to Apollo in a way to kind of coach Creed as almost like a kind of father figure.
And you can tell he probably is trying to make up for being a bad coach for Tommy Gunn.
Exactly. So because
he wasn't a great coach.
It's like redemption for him but also it's kind of like he does see the potential in Creed, and it's kind of like he's helping him not just with like the pure in the ring stuff, but kind of also with like you leveraging his like position within the boxing world to help him like with like the environment to be in, to train, like what to do, like okay, like, you want to go to this sort of gym at this time of your lead up, in camp and stuff. And it's just like, I guess it was just really, it was to see like Rocky transform into like this sort of wise mentor as part of his life. And I think it's also heightened by the fact that Sylvester Stallone's acting is really good in this, to kind of be that kind of, compare like how he coaches in the Creed films versus how the kind of chaos of him trying to coach in Rocky 5, which is him kind of just regurgitating the things that Mickey told him.
Yes,
he's still trying to form the ideas in his head, where he's much wiser, even though he hasn't coached a lot. But leading up to Creed, it's kind of like his understanding of boxing and his mindset is so clear that it's like it's just automatic how he gets through. He's like a boxing whisperer. Like, it's just kind of like, I can imagine like, it's just, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to give for Coach.
Okay.
But at the same time, I'm open to other ones because it might be recency bias.
Maybe. I like that. I like the use of recency bias there as a justification of why you've made that decision. Mine is Mickey Goldmill in Rocky 2.
Rocky 2, okay.
Okay. And here's my reasoning. Mickey, just like in the first movie, he brings grit, there's the tough love, there's the experience in Rocky's corner. However, Rocky 1, he has to be convinced.
Yeah, he's a very reluctant
to
coach.
work with Rocky. There's the reluctant coach. Rocky 2, I don't think there's the reluctancy anymore. But what there is there's more about the friendship. There's more about the bond. There's more about the mentorship. So there's the father figure element that he provides in the second movie. His mentorship adds emotional weight. He, especially as their bond sort of deepens over the course of the movie. And he's there when Adrian wakes up. He's there throughout it all. He's much more than just a technical, tactical coach. There is that, there's a bit more of a level when it comes to the coaching, the greasy, fast, lightning speed, the chasing of the chicken in the second movie, all of those kinds of things that are much more enjoyable. Burgess Meredith is amazing. The raspy voice, the no-nonsense attitude, it's just unforgettable. And Mickey sharpens Rocky's discipline in the second movie. Mickey is the reason why Rocky's able to find a way to beat Apollo and become the world champion. He's the only time, I think, really in the series where, we're talking about the ability to turn somebody into a world champion, really, properly.
Okay.
And helping them evolve as both a fighter and a man. So my argument is for Mickey Goldmill. I really like your argument for Rocky.
I think Mickey is like, he is like a bona fide coach, whereas like Rocky like turned into a coach. It wasn't necessarily it ended up, he developed into a good coach, but it wasn't like his prime purpose. Whereas like, I think the good thing about Mickey, what I like about Mickey is that like in the second film, like you mentioned, it's almost like he sees it, like you mentioned, he's not reluctant about coaching. He sees the opportunity in coaching Creed. Mm-hmm. He's in terms from a professional point of view, he sees now Rocky as this kind of diamond opportunity to like, towards the end of his life, I want to do, this will end up being now like my big achievement and stuff. Like my golden opportunity, my last chance to like have like be involved in the highest level, to be associated with a boxer who can compete at the highest level. I think the thing that maybe kind of reduces the impact that Mickey has for Rocky's success is just how big of an impact Adrian has for Rocky. It does feel like Adrian in the first three films is huge in terms of motivating Rocky from an emotional point of view. And it's like in Rocky 2, Rocky 1, it's like, Rocky at this point it's Rocky can only really communicate to Adrian emotionally because he's still kind of standoffish at times with Mickey. And in Rocky 2, it's kind of like once he gets like that, the hospital conversation of like, do one thing for me, win, that's when we get like the turning point for Rocky. And then in Rocky,
Yeah.
think about Rocky.
We've said this before.
Think about
That
Rocky,
Adrian is both Rocky's biggest strength and his biggest weakness,
right.
isn't she?
Think about in Rocky 3, then when like Creed can't really quite break through into Rocky's, or like, what's the matter with you? Blah, blah, blah. Whereas after it's that conversation on the beach where Rocky has his transformative moment. Whereas I feel like in the Creed films, it's kind of like, maybe that's like the one thing that Creed in the mirroring between Creed and Rocky. I think
Tessa Thompson,
her character, her impact wasn't as big in the films. Good love interest, and it was like a good dynamic between them two whenever they're on stage. But I don't think Tessa Thompson's character had as much of a role in helping Creed break through and develop as much as Rocky did in those films, in terms of like getting him in a state where, yes, you've got the raw talent, but we need to like refine the edges. So
that's a good point. Yeah, Bianca's character isn't as
right,
controlling as Adrian. Okay, one final pitch for me on Mickey is, out of the two coaches, if you were being coached by them, who would you want to win the world championship for? The grumpy, ornery, problemsome Mickey, or Rocky, who's just been believing in you the whole time?
But maybe that just shows. Hang on, but like, I don't know if I like that argument, because like Mickey was such a Scrooge the whole, for a lot of the time, like being such tough love.
Yeah.
But I think you can give it to either. I think I'm gonna stick with my Rocky pick.
I will bend. I think I'll bend on this one.
Okay, yeah.
I love Mickey. The downside is that I think Mickey, in the first 4 movies, for example, I don't think when we lose Mickey in Rocky 3, it's like, oh no, what are we going to do now? Because Apollo steps up so well into the coaching role.
Yeah.
And then after that, Duke steps up into this amazing coaching role as well in Rocky 4 with, he's not a man, he's not a machine, he's a man.
So you're saying that Mickey's not really that important, actually, as any coach could have stepped in and helped Rocky.
Not saying that. But what I'm saying is, what I like about Mickey is his vulnerability. I like Mickey's vulnerability in the first movie, and the second movie even within reason as well, and maybe even into the third movie where Mickey, is showing that, oh, we've protected you to Rocky, we've protected you from this, we've protected you from that. We don't want you to fight Lang because he's a monster and stuff like that. Yeah. I'm going to bend.
Yep.
I'm going to give it to. Yeah, we're going to give it to Rocky in Creed 1. And I think there's something to be said about in Creed 1 and Creed 2 within reason.
As a package, I think as a package,
undertone,
Adrian,
the undertone of the unwellness.
As a support group package, I think Adrian and Mickey combined is like the best balance and best, like that's what I want in my corner as an athlete versus Bianca and Rocky.
Yeah, it's interesting, and maybe that's something to do about the dynamics of different relationships and the dynamics of different people.
I think
Rocky needed.
There's a balance, right? It was the tough love of Mickey combined with the emotional support of Adrian.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's hard to take Mickey by himself.
Here's the one throwback on that. The one thing I'm going to throw back at you is Mama Creed, the emotional support through the Creed movies that was.
I kind of don't like Mama Creed though. So, like the hiding of the letters and all that stuff.
That is definitely recency bias. Yeah. She's wonderful in all 3 movies. Okay, so we're gonna give it comfortably to Rocky from Creed 1. I think I like your argument. I think Burgess Meredith is brilliant, but I think what we've got is if we'd had Mickey, the 5 Mickey movies before we got Rocky, we'd have 4 movies of like Mickey development over the course of the movies that would make us love Mickey as a character even more for his losses, his gains.
Do you know what it is? I think, do you know what it is? Is like, I'm seeing it as an athlete, where I'm like, Rocky was an athlete who became a coach, whereas you're seeing it as a coach because you spent most of your time coaching. I know you were an athlete as well, but you spent most of your time really coaching.
Yeah,
like you see Mickey as kind of like, that's what I think. That's the style of coaching I think works and stuff. Whereas I like
what, the angry, grumpy,
tough love,
make you chase a chicken,
tough love, like high expectations and stuff. Like
Yeah, I think that's true. I am definitely more of a Mickey kind of coach than I am a Rocky kind of coach. I think there's elements. I think once you break through my crispy shell, once you met my crispy outer shell, I think you get into the gooey, chocolatey goodness on the inside like an M&M. But and maybe even the nuts of a peanut M&M. But I think I think that's a fair point. Okay, cool. So winner for that one, Rocky from Creed 1, and I will not underestimate the fact that we've spent 6 movies before that with Rocky developing character with him, where we feel like we know him really in depth. So that's a really good argument. Okay, changing tact a little bit from characters to the people that make the movies a little bit now, James. And I want you to tell me who you believe the best director from the Rocky series is.
So this is probably something which is more of your strength in terms of like discussing directing, because of your experience with like filmmaking and stuff, and like how the
maybe.
So it's in terms of my decision making process for this was kind of like, is there a clear purpose to this film, and like as a whole, did how it was delivered kind of come true? So I think I'm going for a rogue one here as well. I'm actually going to go for Michael B. Jordan in Creed 3.
Oh, I like your argument.
Because
I like your argument.
Because I think
before you go into it.
Go on.
I'm going to say that my pick is Stephen Capel Jr. for Creed 2.
Oh, that's an even wilder pick. Because I remember we talked about the directing for Creed 3. I don't remember us going into much about Creed 2.
Okay, let me talk you through
go
then.
Through. Yeah, okay.
I'm going to talk you through the reasons for that. 1, okay, we're asking for Stephen Capel Jr. has to balance the franchise's legacy with a fresh contemporary style. He is trying to make Rocky 4 and Creed 2 match up. He is trying to make them meet the middle.
It's like Creed 2 and Rocky 4.5. Rocky 4,
yes.
Rocky 4 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've talked about that before.
Yeah. Okay.
He's able to bring that emotional clarity to Adonis's journey, making the stakes feel personal. So we've got all of the stuff with the new daughter being born, the deafness, the challenges between him and his wife. Rocky, it's the end of Rocky. You've got to put Rocky to bed as a director, and that is huge.
Yep.
The boxing sequences are brilliant in that movie.
Yep.
There are some incredible and amazing fights. The only thing that I think is a slight disappointment is that we don't get necessarily the same level of cinematography and boxing work from the first Creed movie with the one shot fight, which is incredible. If that had happened again in the second movie, I'd be really, really blown away.
Yeah.
And I think that the themes that are explored in Creed 2 are really clever. So family, forgiveness, legacy, nuance, sensitivity.
Yeah.
I think Stephen Capel Jr. just did it all in Creed 2, especially when you imagine that it's 2 linear characters moving forwards. It's Rocky exploring his past with Rocky 4. It's Drago, going back into his past with Rocky 4. It's Creed dealing with his father's passing and the person who killed his father, having to go face to face with that. It's it's the new Drago, the young Drago trying to live up to his father. It is so layered that it could have gone so incredibly wrong, but it just got it incredibly right.
Joe, I'm going to give you the win here. We'll talk about because we both agree that the directing in Creed 3 was really good. I think it was Michael B. Jordan's first film directing, So that's very
Yes.
that was very impressive.
You have to give him his flowers for that. It was very
Yeah.
clever.
And also, he took some very bold stylistic decisions in terms of like how he wanted like the fight sequences to go,
Mm-hmm.
and of course he wanted to kind of. This was like this was a film that was also no longer in Philadelphia. So
Yes.
he had to kind of make it have more of the LA themes rather than the kind of, you know, the Philadelphia themes. And I think he just sort of made it his own. And it was like, it was bold. And I think this ended up doing very well in the box office. Creed 3.
Yeah, it did.
And I think just in terms of like having that fresh approach, that's kind of diverged slightly from the classic formulas we saw from the old Rocky films. But still, you know, I think it was more about how do we make Creed how do we like develop him as a character. But I do have to say, what you say is absolutely right. In terms of like, you could argue that the directing for Creed 2 was bolder in the sense of like, we want to make a film which is both a sequel to Creed. So like, how does Creed's journey develop? As well as doing what many people at the time would have thought was like, oh, this is just like, you know, we're bringing back an old character, we're bringing back the Drago name, this is going to be kind of cheesy. But actually, it was done perfectly. You know? And I think you're absolutely right, you know, to have that kind of, to honor the past and to have a kind of farewell tour for Rocky where he comes to, and I think we've said that neither of us, you know, we said Damian Anderson was the best antagonist, and we kind of said that Apollo Creed was maybe the second best. Ivan was the most, because of the tragic death of Apollo at the hands of Ivan, he's kind of the most personal, I guess. It's the least, his position as Ivan's position as an antagonist is the most personal rather than business.
Agree.
Which makes the stakes in Creed 2 very kind of tense and, you know, tension due to that kind of, you know, the knowledge of like, okay, this isn't just like a boxer from Russia who like wants to, you know, he's scary, but he's also the guy whose dad killed my dad.
Yes.
You know, and that extra kind of layer of like, you know, tension and, you know, suspense. So I think you're right. I think just in terms of like execution from what was the clear goal, it was very obvious what they were trying to achieve in Creed 2. I think you're absolutely right. I think I can give that to Creed 2, yeah.
Okay. Well, congratulations, Stephen Capel Jr. I think it was incredibly well directed. Not to take away anything from John G. Avildsen in the first movie, not to take anything away from Stallone in the subsequent 3 movies after that, and then coming back in the other movies that we've seen. I just think that meld in together is kind of perfect. I'm going to lead off on our next category, soundtrack, James. The best soundtrack of any of the Rocky series over the course of it. The soundtrack pick for me is Rocky 4. As you
I think that you probably knew that my answer was going to be Rocky 4 as well from the chats we've had.
I think I tried to find other options. But I actually went back and listened to a bunch of the soundtracks, and I was like, okay, is there any way I can get away from Rocky 4 as being my answer? Not that I don't want it to be, but because I want to check my own sense check myself. But it just came back to Rocky 4. I love some of the orchestral pieces in Rocky 1, Rocky 2, Rocky 3. But for me, Rocky 4 does those and more with a mixture of different stuff. So we've got 80s perfection, that blend of synth rock, anthems, the emotional ballads, the era vibes of mid 80s, it's perfection.
More Survivor.
There's those, there's those iconic tracks of Hearts on Fire, No Easy Way Out, that are now legendary training music. The music drives the film's emotional and physical momentum. There are some things that are in the soundtrack away from the... So if we split them out as being what's going on with the actual score and what's going on with the soundtrack. So soundtrack being like songs, but score being just the music that happens in some of the scenes. You've got Paulie's Robot, in there, which is a very special piece of music. You've got Drago's entrance music, which has got like a complete and utter vibe to it going on. There's, just really.
You've also don't forget Burning Heart.
Yeah,
Burning Heart.
Think there's
we got Eye of the Tiger technically in there, included, but I think this Rocky IV. I think what did it for me is that Rocky IV's soundtrack is the one that I've listened to the most since.
Has it got James? Is Rocky IV got James Brown as well with Living in America?
Yeah. That's what Apollo Creed in his intro has, And then obviously you've got there's a bit of Conquest is there again.
Yes.
And then you've got War, which I think as a single, I mean, come on, it's just like whenever that comes on. And it's loud. I just get I get goosebumps sometimes because it's just like this is so epic. Because perhaps we don't have an award for best fight.
No,
but I think my best fight would be Rocky IV, and I think a big part of that is due to the song War.
Yeah, I think it helps. Yeah, it's. You're right.
Yeah, but all the reasons you said as well, it's beautifully captures the period because I think Rocky IV is very much a period piece. It's like the other films you kind of are loosely defined in their era. Like it could be any time of a year, whereas any period of time. Whereas Rocky IV is so distinctly 80s because of the Cold War connotations.
Yes.
And it's like it's perfect. It's perfect what they did with Vince DiCola.
Vince DiCola,
yeah.
Yeah, and it's got that. What I like is, like you say, it's got a real mix of music in there, a real mix of songs. It's just right. And there's still something that makes me want to, be grumpy about a friend dying, but go out for a drive in my car with. No easy way out.
Yeah.
But I think that's the right answer.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So congratulations, Vince DiCola and the people that put together the soundtrack for Rocky IV, because it is an absolutely epic soundtrack that we both completely love. So good. Well done there.
So good, in fact, that he got the job for making the Transformers Angry Birds game soundtrack. So that says enough, doesn't it?
That sounds exactly like Rocky IV.
Yeah.
True. Okay. Moving swiftly on then to script. Mm-hmm. And now script isn't easy because all of these movies are quotable. Mm-hmm. All of them are quotable. And I'm going to let you go first on script.
So my answer, the reasoning for my one uses a lot of the reasons that you've already mentioned for your pick for Protagonist, because my choice of best script is Rocky 1.
Oh.
I think in terms of the flow of it and kind of the exposition that was built from it and the reason why how the underdog story comes into fruition with the the creation of the Creed's team thinking, how do we get we create an American story here, of giving a fight to a contender. The love story between how he meets Adrian, and it's just, I think, again, it's maybe just because it's the first one. It's the first time we get to see these characters. Therefore, there's lots of exposition that's created. But in terms of, I guess, how do you give an award for best script? Is it lines? Is it just kind of like?
Yeah, well, you're giving
flow?
You're clearly saying that Rocky asking about moss and flies in the turtle food is more important than other potentially more quotable areas of the Rocky series. Let me just bring you round to my idea of thinking here. All right, the winner for best script is definitely going to be Rocky 3. Okay, because it is by far and away the most quotable of any of the movies that we're talking about here. Okay, we've got themes of fear and fame. So we've got all of those bits where, Rocky's having to talk about certain things, and he's got his money, and then he's being chased down by Clubber. You've got great lines by Clubber saying that Rocky's scared, Balboa's scared of me, and then you've got, arguably the best Apollo Creed lines in the movie, with "There is no tomorrow," and "What the hell's going on?" and he's given up, and all this sort of stuff. Exactly. And you've got arguments on the beach between Rocky and Adrian.
I'm afraid. Yeah, you said it. I'm afraid.
Yeah, what's it all worth if we can't be honest with each other? You've got the character arcs of Rocky's fall and redemption. You've got Apollo's mentorship. You've got Clubber Lang's rise. You've got those snappy dialogue like "You need to get back the Isle of the Tiger." You've still got "I pity the fool" in there that are just pop culture staples. Then you've got the balanced tone of managing emotional drama, action, and even elements of comedy in that script. And that moment where he walks into that LA gym and he says, "Look at that stallion, look at them. They look at what they got. They got the eye of the tiger, man. We need to get that back." I don't care. It is so quotable. I think your argument about Rocky 1 is nice, and I think the fact that Stallone wrote it himself and created a script that was very good.
Rocky 1 felt like a default choice for me, as opposed to like one that I don't feel so strongly about giving it to Rocky 1. It was just sort of like, I think there's a certain magic in Rocky 1 that even if it's not like the most refined film, there's a certain magic in it which kind of maybe goes away as the excess kind of increases. The issue I had with Rocky 3 was some of the lines and the kind of, maybe, what's the best word? The kind of deviations from professional sports when it comes with when you've got like the fight with Thunderlips at the start, and like all the things with the commercials he's trying to do. Like, "Oh, I'm not too slow."
That's Rocky 2. That's Rocky 2.
They're Rocky 2.
Yeah,
it is Rocky 2. Okay, so that's actually
it's okay. Don't.
Yeah,
but I think.
But I don't really have a strong opinion about script, to be honest.
I think Rocky 1 is strong. For me, it will just come back to me.
I guess you're right. Quotable lines is like, Rocky 3 had the most quotable lines.
So I think so. There are some very quotable lines in Rocky 4.
Yeah.
There are some very quotable lines in Rocky 2. You like animals, Adrian. I like animals. I like tigers. That kind of thing is quite nice. In Rocky 1, the guy showing him around. Look at these flaws.
So I guess the question is like, what is
solid flaws?
What is a good script? Is it about?
I think it's about the words. I think it's about the words that are coming out of the actors.
Okay.
I think it's about how they peruse things and communicate things.
Okay, fair enough. Because in that case, I probably will give it to Rocky 3, because I think the reason I wanted it to what I like about Rocky 1 is the story of Rocky 1, as opposed to, and that's maybe what I'm sort of thinking more about. When actually, it's like I need to be thinking more about the work, because like some of the dialogue is slightly maybe wooden, or like it's clearly just early script writing or
there's
evidence of script writing inexperience which gets refined later on. So
well, let's come back to that. Just hold on to that thought, because we might revisit that when we get to movie in a couple of awards time. So winner for script for me is Rocky 3. I don't think you can make a strong enough argument. Rocky 4's got a very good script, but Rocky 3 for me, I think There Is No Tomorrow will forever be the line from the Rocky series. It's not even provided by Rocky. Montage.
This is a tough one.
It is.
This is like the most important. This is like the most important award for the whole Rocky film, because like how important the montage is for the Rocky movies. I feel like there is no Rocky or Creed film without a montage. If it doesn't have a montage, it really hurts it, and which is surprising, because like Creed 3's montages, like we thought were okay, but like
they weren't as good as
it wasn't its strength, which is perhaps why it felt detached from other. It felt so different because it wasn't centered on the montage, was it?
True.
I think the things that make montages great is when we get that flip, in terms of like kind of the struggling to like get into shape and get into that mindset, but then he ultimately like gets ready because something happens. But actually, the I think the cleverest montage, the montage that I thought was like, ooh, that was really good, was Rocky 4.
Yep.
Parallel montage between Drago and
Yep.
Rocky. Yeah.
Yep. That's the one I'm going for.
Yeah. I think
100%,
that was like, that was so well done in terms of that parallel between Rocky. It's like it was two montages in one, really, because it was like Rocky's training combined with Ivan's training. How they're kind of doing similar things, but just in different methods. Ivan using the vast resources offered to him by the Soviet Athletics Association steroids versus Rocky just kind of focusing more on training his mind and mental toughness by training in harsh Siberian environment
and growing a beard
very quickly, whilst getting spied on by Russians in blacked out Mercedes.
It's perfection.
It's great. It's really good. Although
I think there's that. I just think that when you do stuff where you show, here's an uber modern scientific way of training that muscle, but here's the way that you can train that muscle with an ox cart and get the same results, or maybe even better results. It's like the argument of the old school is better than the new school.
And what was that shot as well of like the tree falling at the same time as
Ivan. Drago knocking out his training opponent.
Is that what it was? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's right. I think an honourable mention though that I want to give is to the starting montage in Rocky 3.
Oh, the newspapers montage,
that was
of him winning.
Eye
of the Tiger montage.
Eye of the Tiger
really,
montage,
really good.
because it was like end of Rocky 2, Rocky's the champion, and we need to get to a point where Rocky is like an experienced champion, who's actually already thinking about retirement and stuff. And this
most time passing,
This perfectly got us up to speed, and like, okay, here's Rocky winning loads of fights, and here is the hungry Clubber Lang waiting in the wings for his moment to come and fight Rocky. So I think that was excellent as well, and that was more like a traditional Rocky montage.
Yeah,
but I think for like what we said, just in terms of like the extra sort of little flourishes, little kind of extra bit of magic from the Rocky 4 montage.
I think the simple answer for this one is, if you're going to search a Rocky montage on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, which one are you going to pick? I think you're automatically searching Rocky 4 training montage, and I think that's the one that's going to come up almost guaranteed for anybody. So yeah, congratulations. I mean, Sylvester Stallone directed Rocky 4, so well done, Sylvester Stallone, for producing the best montage. I think there's an argument to be made that there was a lot of practice in the 3 movies leading up to that came to making that the best montage.
Like, how do we make a montage that's not just like the same as the other ones? We need to like an extra level now.
Yes.
And that's what they did.
Yes. Yeah. Well, love it. Okay, fantastic. And that's going to bring us to our final award, and that's Best Movie. Out of all of the 9 that we've watched. And I'll open with my argument for this one, because I think it's going to be quite simple to make the argument. For me, it's Rocky, 1976, because it won the Best Picture Oscar. It made the series what it was. It came from nowhere financially to make so much money that it's unbelievable. It's authentic and gritty, so it's shot with that naturalistic style that makes Philly feel like the character itself. There's the human story, that it's more than a boxing movie. It's the love story. It's about hope. It's about believing in yourself. And it just laid the foundation for the greatest sports movie saga ever. Have you got an argument against that, James?
Very good, Joe, but it's Rocky 5. I mean... No, you're absolutely right, Joe. It's Rocky 1 for the reasons you said. It's like had the most magic that started it all.
I love that phrase. Well done. It has the most magic. It's such a great phrase.
You can't describe it. It's just like it's
right.
magical when you watch it, because I think it's the honesty of it. It's like it's just like this is.
And if your protagonist loses,
yes, that's very bold as well.
But you feel like he won.
He won.
Then the movie has won.
And you feel like you relate to Rocky most in the first film.
Yeah.
Before he's made it, before all the money comes in and all the success and stuff. My favorite film is still Rocky 4, but I always feel like Rocky 4 feels so sidetracked from a lot of the principal themes which we're supposed to see in Rocky. Which it's almost like I feel like my favorite film is Rocky 4. So like, which one do you want to watch right now? I'm going to say Rocky 4. But if you're like, which is the best Rocky film?
Yeah.
It's Rocky 1.
It's Rocky 1. I just think that it's got, like you said, I think the phrase that you used before about magic is the argument. It is magical. The first time you watch Rocky for the first time, you're just like, who is this bum? Who is this guy? He's struggling. You can smell his apartment. You can sense the level of desperation that this man is going through. You can see the opportunity in front of him, and then you get to start on the journey with him, which just makes you feel, you're immediately wrapped up in it. You want him to win, not just for him. You want him to win for Mickey. You want him to win for his girlfriend. You want him to win for, the city of Philadelphia. And ultimately, he doesn't win, but you still come away thinking, he's my favourite person that I've ever watched in a movie ever. He's the best sports movie character. And I still believe, I know that there were sports movies before Rocky in 1976, but I think that Rocky created all the movies that we've watched since then.
Yep.
I think it was, for us as the champions of cinema, it was the zeitgeist of what began us wanting to create a podcast was that movie and the subsequent series of movies afterwards. So, yes, congratulations. Not only you're an Oscar winner, but you're a champions of cinema, champion movie, and you're also our winner of Best Picture for the Rocky series. So, congratulations to Rocky 1. James, we're going to change tact a little bit. We've come to the end of our rewards, but I want you to just start thinking ahead. If there's going to be Creed 4, what do you want to do with it? How would you write it?
So I know how I want it to start. I can't think how it's going to end. But for me, what I'm thinking of is that I think Creed's retired. I don't think we're going to see Creed in the ring anymore, potentially.
At all?
Not as a boxer.
Okay.
I think what would be cool to see, because I really like Damian Anderson. What we could see is that Creed's chilling, maybe supporting his wife's music career or coaching or whatever, or maybe not coaching, who knows, but let's say he's coaching still at his gym. News comes on. Damien's done something because, offenders tend to repeat or whatever. And I think Creed sees Damien in a hole, and due to feeling like he has this regret that he's perhaps abandoned Damien in the past, he now fully takes on Damien as his mentor and coaches him and fights, I don't know, Drago or something. That's the first thing that comes to my head. But I'd struggle to see Creed in the ring again, just because there are almost elements of Rocky Balboa with Creed coming back to the ring after 3 years in Creed 3, in terms of you got broken hands, you got brain damage, or this, that, knee ligament, whatever, shoulders have messed up. To see him go back into the ring again after another 3 years later, again after his initial departure from boxing, I'd struggle to be sold on that.
That's fair.
That's
a really fair point. Okay. Here's my pitch for you.
Okay.
I think that we have to centre on Damien and where Damien's trying to go.
Okay.
I think Damien is, Creed's like, I'm the world champion. Again, I've taken the belts off of Damien. I think he relinquishes the belts, and he agrees to help coach Damien.
Okay.
To fight somebody for the world championship.
That's what I said, yeah.
And Damien dies.
What?
Yeah. Damien
in the
dies.
ring? Or
Yeah.
right.
It dies in the ring. We get our own Rocky 4. We get Creed.
Oh. Okay.
We get Creed having to avenge his friend in a fight. And it doesn't have to be about Drago. I don't think it has to be against Drago, but I think what we could do...
That wouldn't work, because like Drago and Creed are
it's not Drago.
They're kind of
I
on
think
good
it's,
terms now, so...
Yeah, I think that's fine, but I think maybe it's a character from both of their pasts. Somebody else who was in the home.
So maybe
something like that.
It's another flashback.
Yeah,
another
there's
child.
still elements of the
because
past.
This would probably, because it makes sense, because this would probably be directed by Michael B. Jordan again. So I have lots of that style of the flashbacks to when they were kids, and there could be some.
But here's what I want.
Okay.
Drago comes in to support. Young Drago comes in to support the boxing again, to the fighting. But there's a moment where he says, "Look, I can't coach you, like young Duke. I can't coach you. We need to get another coach. We need to bring back Rocky."
I love it.
And Rocky needs to teach him how to grow a beard.
We're running out. We need another hostile environment. We've
done South America. We've
done the
jungle.
desert. We've done the ice. So now we jungle. Intense humidity and sweat. And
yeah.
I like it.
Has to be that. Some sort of South American thing. Yeah. Or maybe Damien agrees to do some sort of cross fight. You know, he's as a former world champion, he decides that he's going to go and do an MMA fight, and he gets killed in the MMA fight. And then Creed has to take on a Conor McGregor style character that would be then fighting him. It's options, James. We're just giving us options. It's just ideas.
I like it though. I think that's cool. I think
we like Jonathan Major's character enough now that he's going to transcend and be Creed's Apollo.
Someone that
I think he's going to be.
Yes, someone who's likable. Yeah, someone who's not the villain anymore. He's the friend of the protagonist.
Yes.
And we could even see them like doing some like nice stuff at the start, so you fall in love with them as a pet. Oh, these two are great. Like it's nice to see like the childhood friends finally like, you know, caught up and stuff, and then tragic death, and at the hands of someone from the past. I'd be skeptical only of bringing Rocky back, as much as I'd love to see him back again. I thought like his ending was so good that it would be like, do I want to see him like brought back again in case it's like his, do you know what I mean, like digging up bones in a way of kind of like
maybe,
but also the revenge something was something which maybe Rocky is too familiar with.
Maybe.
And he'd maybe like kind of he'd probably end up like trying to dissuade Creed from like, look, I fought Rocky. I fought, Drago for revenge.
And I never got the closure. I never got the closure that I wanted.
No.
Yeah.
And but then that could be a device. You know, it could be something else might happen that like that like gives Apollo the closure or something. I think that's good though. I think
there's something there.
I think what you've said, maybe minus the Rocky edition, could be really cool.
Interesting.
I think
the only other way that I would go with it is that that Amara is old enough to start boxing. That's the only other way that I would go. But I think that has to be Creed 5. Yeah. Because I think she's going to be still too young as a character to start boxing.
I think the interesting thing you could do is that have more maybe Drago in it, because ultimately Creed 2 is a revenge story for Drago.
Yes.
Because it's like he's kind of trying to reclaim his father's lost honor. So it's kind of like there could be some bits there of like, oh, you know, I tried to fight for revenge once against you, and it wasn't, you know, my head was in the wrong place, you know, or whatever.
That's a good point.
So that could be interesting.
Could be that Dolph dies, something like that. Interesting. Yeah, there's some good ideas in there.
We'll have to wait
James,
and see, I suppose.
We will. We're just going to have to see what comes out of the brain of Michael B. Jordan in the next couple of years, I think. And hopefully we get something fantastic. Just really a note, really, from me, and on behalf of you, really, to our listeners. Just thank you, really, for sticking with us for the last 10 episodes. I appreciate that when we picked to do a full series of Rocky, it might have caused us challenges with people who wanted to jump in and listen to stuff, especially if you're not a Rocky fan or you've never seen the Rocky movies. So if you've made it this far with us, thank you. We really do appreciate you, and we appreciate you listening. I think we're going to move really swiftly into getting season 4 started. We're going to go one of two ways with this podcast right now, James. Either this is it and we're going to stop, or we're going to find new life and new excitement to start running away with season 4.
We're going to go to LA. We're going to go to the gym. We're going to go to the cinema in LA. I'm going to find out our movie watching Eye of the Tiger.
Oh. Yeah. There's a possibility of that. James, if people want to contact us about what we should be watching in season 4, where should they do that?
They can follow our social medias on Champions of Cinema on Instagram and TikTok, or they can write to us, tell us what we should watch in season 4, maybe even season 5 if we get such a long list, at championsofcinema@gmail.com.
Yeah, and if you're listening or watching on YouTube, just drop that comment in the comments below. That helps us along with getting a bit more search engine optimization. It gets us a few more, contacts and people listening. We'll be more than happy to listen to your suggestions of what we should be watching. I've got a list in front of me of movies that I want to cover, ranging from soccer, American football, ice hockey, wrestling, baseball, MMA fighting, boxing again, and even cycling, James. Are movies that I'm looking at moving into the future. A
charcuterie of fine sports films, I'm sure.
A charcuterie board.
Charcuterie board.
Yes, a fine selection of cheeses and grapes, absolutely, for us to enjoy in season 4. Thank you as well to you for producing this movie, the movie podcast with me. I do appreciate it. I think as we've taken a long time with season 3 to get stuff going and get stuff moving on, whether that's due to personal reasons, whether that's due to personal life changes. But what I'm finding is we're now over the hump of how difficult this is to make and to do and to produce. And actually, I find it much easier to do now. I think we're finding our voice. I think we've found the way that we want to cover movies. I think we've found the way that we want to talk about them. And it's only making it easier to produce this sports podcast with you.
We've mastered the Matrix. We see the film. We can see straight through films.
You've taken as many red pills as possible.
All the red pills. I'm seeing the numbers, the zeros and the ones, and it's like we now are self-proclaimed master critiques of sports films, Joe.
Do you know Kung Fu now?
I do know Kung Fu.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I can't ever show it, though.
Am I the Morpheus of this podcast?
Probably are.
Here,
like James, you can take the critically acclaimed Any Given Sunday, or you can watch a film about bowling with Woody Harrelson.
Yeah. Or I'll make you do both.
Psych, you have to take both. It's one purple pill, take it or leave it.
Oh, everybody wants a purple pill. On that note, James, Joe, it's time to hit the music. James, thank you so much for producing this series of Champions of Cinema podcast with me. I'm looking forward to getting on with the next one.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, audience. And thank you, Rocky.
Oh, yeah.